Here's how to play every rare brawler in Brawl Stars. For each brawler, I'll go over their best matchups, stats, attack, super, hypercharge, general plan, their best 3v3 modes, some tips and tricks, and their best build. Shelly. Shelly's purpose is primarily to counter tanks and assassins with her super, but she struggles against brawlers that outrange her and outmaneuver her, such as Crow, Stu, Tara, and Nita. She has 7400 HP and a fast movement speed. Her main attack is called Buckshot and consists of 5 projectiles that do 600 damage each. You can't really see this in her normal skin because of the projectile textures, but this skin shows it better. Shelly's super is called Super Shell and shoots 9 projectiles, which all do knockback and break walls. Knockback in Brawl Stars is basically a stun, because you can shoot brawlers that are being knocked back and they can't shoot back, which makes this super extremely powerful. Shelly's hypercharge is called Double Barrel and gives her 25% extra speed, 5% extra damage, and 25% extra shield. It also makes her super 33% larger. Shelly can use her hypercharge to instantly put pressure on opponents and maybe even pick up a few kills. Now Shelly's first gadget is called Fast Forward and makes her dash forward a very small distance, 3.33 tiles, in the direction she's facing. But just keep in mind that she can still get hit while dashing. And Shelly's second gadget is called Clear Pigeons and makes her attack longer and narrower for 5 seconds. Now Shelly's first star power is called Shell Shock and slows down enemies hit by her super for 2 seconds. And Shelly's second star power is called Band-Aid and heals her for 2200 HP when she falls below 40% HP. This ability takes 15 seconds to recharge. For 3v3, the main plan with her is just to use a Clay Pigeons gadget to push back enemies and charge her super, then use her super to cause devastating damage and move up the map. Shelly's best 3v3 game modes include just Brawl Ball, but she can be viable in any bushy map. Tips and tricks. In Brawl Ball, Shelly can score through walls by kicking the ball then supering directly after. One of Shelly's best combos is using her super, then activating Clay Pigeons right after, then spamming shots. This works especially well with her first star power, Shell Shock. Best build. Shelly's best build is Clay Pigeons, damage or speed, and extra gadget gears, and any star power works. Usually though, you'd want to go with Band-Aid in Showdown, and Shell Shock in 3v3 game modes. Nita. Nita's primary purpose is to build up her super to soak up shots and waste opponents' ammo. For this reason, she thrives against tanks because they allow her to build up her super more easily. However, her short range and normal movement speed means that she struggles against throwers like Larry and Lori and Dinah. Brawlers that can pierce such as Carl and Amber are also pretty good against Nita because they can shoot through her bear. Nita has 8000 HP and a normal movement speed. Her main attack is called Rupture and shoots a shockwave that does 1920 damage. And Nita's super is called Overbearing and spawns a bear. This bear might seem underwhelming at first, but its primary purpose isn't really to do damage, but instead to waste ammo while pressuring the opponents, especially while hypercharged. Nita's hypercharge is called Hyperbearing and gives her 26% extra speed, 25% extra damage, and 5% extra shield. Nita's hypercharge also makes her bear have 20% extra health and makes it 15% faster. Nita's first gadget is called Bear Pause and causes her bear to stun nearby enemies for half a second after a 1 second delay. And Nita's second gadget is called Faux Fur and makes her bear have a 35% shield for 3 seconds. And Nita's first star power is called Bear With Me and makes her heal 1040 HP when her bear hits an enemy brawler and makes her bear heal 1040 HP when Nita hits an enemy brawler. Finally, Nita's second star power is called Hyper Bear and simply makes her bear attack 2.5 times faster. For 3v3, the main plan with Nita is to charge your super on tanks, then use your bear while pushing out the map to waste your opponent's ammo. Or if you're not gonna push for a while, it's better to just throw your bear behind you instead of just wasting it by holding onto your super. Nita's best 3v3 game modes include just Heist and Brawl Ball, but you need different builds for each game mode. Tips and tricks. If you're using Nita's stun gadget, there's a delay between when you push your gadget and when your bear actually stuns. But if you already have a bear on the map and have your super, then you can activate your gadget, then throw your super onto an opponent to instantly stun them. Nita's really good at shooting around walls because her shockwave is really wide, so try staying behind walls and poking at opponents. Best build. If you're playing Heist, Nita's best build is Faux Fur, Pit Power and Damage Gears, and a Hyper Bear. This build gives Nita's bear the most health and damage possible, so you're gonna want to throw your bear on the safe, then activate your gadget to keep your bear protected from attacks. If you're not playing Heist, Nita's best build is Bear Pause, Speed and Damage Gears, and Bear With Me. With this build, you're gonna be able to counter tanks more easily with a stun and healing. Colt. Colt's primary purpose is to break walls and do damage, especially to the Heist safe. Colt does pretty well against brawlers with bouncing projectiles, as well as brawlers that depend on walls to place their turrets, such as 8-Bit and Jesse. But since Colt's projectiles are narrow, he does struggle against fast brawlers such as Max and Stu, as well as brawlers that outrange him, such as Mandy, Piper, Nani, and Belle. Colt has 5600 HP and a normal movement speed. His main attack is called 6 Shooters and shoots 6 bullets that do 720 damage each for a combined max damage of 4320. Now Colt's super is called Bullet Storm and shoots 12 projectiles that do 640 damage each for a combined max damage of 7680. These bullets also break walls, which can open up the map. However, it's important to note that these bullets actually don't pierce the walls, but just break them and disappear. Colt's hypercharge is called dual wielding and gives him 26% extra speed, 25% extra damage, and 5% extra shield. Hypercharge also makes his super 120% wider, which makes it easier to hit, and Colt's first gadget is called speed loader and instantly reloads 2 ammo. And Colt's second gadget is called Silver Bullet and makes his next ammo 1 bullet that is twice as wide as normal and breaks obstacles. It also does 1440 damage. Now Colt's first star power is called Slick Boots and makes his movement speed increase by 13%. This makes his speed on par with Crow, who is one of the fastest brawlers in the game. Colt's second star power is called Magnum Special and increases his bullet speed and range by 11%. The general plan for Colt is literally just to spam shots. Since Colt's reload speed buff, he essentially has infinite ammo, so you can just constantly pressure the lane. For 3v3 game modes, Colt's primarily just used in Heist, but he can still be okay in Brawl Ball. Tips and tricks. When using Colt, try to mirror your opponent's movements to hit more shots. In Brawl Ball, you can shoot the ball and gadget immediately after to pretty much get a guaranteed goal. Colt's best build is speed loader every time except when you want to break a lot of walls, reload speed and damage gears, and the star power really depends on the situation and it's basically personal preference. If you're good at dodging, Slick Boots can be pretty good against snipers, but otherwise the extra range from Magnum Special could be really helpful. Bull. Bull's primary purpose is to obtain a super by getting hit, then charge at opponents to cause chaos. Because Bull has so much health and does tons of damage at close range, he does really well into assassins and tanks that don't do much damage or stun or knockback, such as Edgar, Mortis, Fang, Miko, and Rosa. But due to this, Bull does need to get into point blank range, so he struggles against brawlers that outrange him, which is pretty much everyone else. And some brawlers in particular are Shelly, Amber, and Maisie, because they all do a ton of damage and outrange Bull. Bull has 10,000 HP and a fast movement speed. His main attack is called Double Barrel and shoots 5 projectiles that do 880 damage each for a max damage of 4400. So basically, his attack is just Shelly's but does more damage with less range. So fun fact, although Shelly counters Bull, she only does if she has her super. Without it, Bull can just do this. Yeah, pretty painful. Bull's super is fittingly called Bulldozer and makes Bull charge forward a long distance, 11 tiles. Along the way, he knocks back enemies in his path and breaks obstacles, but he can still get hit while charging. Bull's hypercharge is called Jaws of Steel, and with it, he gets 25% extra speed, 5% extra damage, and 25% extra shield. It also makes him take 80% less damage while charging with his super. Bull's first gadget is called T-Bone Injector and makes Bull heal himself for 1000 HP, and Bull's second gadget is called Stomper, which interrupts his super and slows down nearby enemies for 1.5 seconds. Now Bull's first star power is called Berserker and doubles his reload speed when his health falls below 60%. And finally, Bull's second star power is called Tough Guy and makes him gain a 30% damage reduction shield when under 40% health. This makes his effective HP 11,714. For 3v3, the main plan with Bull is just to use the walls around you to pressure your opponents, essentially zoning out part of the map. Once you get your super, you can charge at your opponents to get close and kill them. Bull's best 3v3 game modes include just Heist and Brawl Ball. Tips and tricks. If you're playing Brawl Ball, you can shoot the ball into the wall, super to break that wall, then score. You can use unbreakable walls or the edge of the map to interrupt your super without using your Stomper gadget. Best build. Bull's best build is Stomper every time, damage, speed, and super charge gears depending on the map, and Tough Guy all the time, but Berserker can be used sometimes in Heist. Brock. Brock's purpose is primarily to break walls and do splash damage while also competing as a sharpshooter. As a sharpshooter, he thrives against slow or squishy brawlers like Spike and 8-Bit, and as a wall breaker, he does well against brawlers that rely on walls for either their turret or attack, such as Jessie, Pam, Dinah, and Grom, especially with his second gadget. However, Brock trades off his splash damage and ability to break walls with his slow projectile speed and low damage for a sharpshooter. This all makes him vulnerable to assassins, fast-moving brawlers, and other sharpshooters, such as Mortis, Fang, Piper, Nani, and Angelo. Brock has 4800 HP and a normal movement speed. His main attack is called Rockin' Rocket and shoots one rocket, which is 2320 damage and explodes at the end of his range, or on impact, affecting a 1.5 tile radius. The rocket also sets a 1 tile area on the ground on fire, dealing 696 damage for anyone that steps on it per second, for a maximum of 2 ticks. So if someone gets hit by a rocket and stays on the fire for its entire duration, Brock has the ability to do 3712 damage per rocket, which is a ton of damage. However, in reality, you'll only get this much damage on stationary targets like the Heist safe, because most players will just walk out of the fire. Brock's super is called Rocket Rain and fires 9 rockets that cover a large area from the sky, with the entire super taking 2.05 seconds to finish. Each rocket does 2080 damage in a 1.5 tile radius and breaks walls. Brock's hypercharge is called Rocket Barrage and gives him 26% extra speed, 25% extra damage, and 5% extra shield. It also changes his super to shoot 4 waves of 7 rockets for 28 rockets in total that do 750 damage each. Basically, this just gives him more consistent damage, but as I'm recording this, Brock's hypercharge is kinda bad because it doesn't do enough damage. and often does less damage than his actual super, so I'll show you a way to improve his hypercharge in the tips and tricks section. Brock's first gadget is called Rocket Laces and makes him jump a small distance, 2.67 tiles, in the direction he's facing. He also leaves a small explosion behind, which does 580 damage and knocks back nearby enemies. This can be really useful for escaping assassins. Brock's second gadget is called Rocket Fuel and makes his next attack 30% faster and 50% bigger. It also breaks obstacles in a 2-tile radius but doesn't leave fire behind like his normal attack, so it's extremely useful for finishing off enemies. Brock's first star power is called More Rockets and makes his super shoot 4 more rockets, going from 9 rockets to 13. Brock's hypercharge is also affected, as he shoots 7 more rockets when hypercharged, going from 28 to 35. And Brock's second star power is called Rocket number 4 and allows him to store an extra rocket in his ammo. For a 3v3, the main plan with Brock is just to stay back and hold your position, using your gadget and super to break walls if it benefits your team. Brock's best 3v3 game modes include Heist, due to the fire he leaves behind, and Bounty, Knockout, and Wipeout because of his long range. Tips and tricks. Try to stay at your max range to get your splash damage to hit your opponents, otherwise you'll have a really hard time hitting your shots due to your narrow rocket projectiles. Try to offset your super when using it on the high save. If you auto in the save, you'll only hit a few rockets, but if you slightly offset your super, you'll hit a lot more shots. Brock can hit his opponents through walls if they're standing right up against a wall, because the splash radius is so big. Your super will always hit your targeted zone, and your movement won't affect it, so you can retreat after supering the high save of the enemy if needed. When using your hypercharge, try to activate your super before your hypercharge, because for some reason that does more damage. Best build. Brock's best build is Rocket Fuel if you want to open up the map, or Rocket Laces if you're playing ladder or are facing assassins, and either star power works depending on your preferences, and for gears they vary depending on the game mode. For Heist, damage and reload are the best because you need to do damage on the high save, and for Bounty, Knockout, and Wipeout, shield and reload are better because survival is important in those game modes. El Primo. El Primo's purpose is kind of like Bull's. He causes chaos on the map and makes plays after obtaining his super. Having the tank trait, his super is even more easier to get, as he can also charge it by getting hit. Because El Primo has many ways of knocking back enemies, he does really well into his fellow tanks and assassins, such as Bull, Jackie, and Edgar. Additionally, since El Primo can jump over walls and is really tanky, he can do well against throwers that do little damage like Sprout and Tick. Now of course, as a tank, Primo is vulnerable to tank counters who do insane damage or stun or knockback, such as Shelly, Colette, Gale, and Griff. El Primo has 12,000 HP and a fast movement speed. His main attack is called Fist of Fury and it shoots 4 fist projectiles in rapid succession, dealing 760 damage each for a combined damage of 2,880. Although this may seem like not that much damage for a tank, his super and very fast reload speed compensate for his lack of damage for 1 ammo. Primo's super is called Flying Elbow Drop and does exactly that. El Primo leads forward into a targeted area, dealing 1,920 damage to nearby enemies, knocking them back and breaking obstacles. Primo's hypercharge is called Gravity Leap and gives him 25% extra speed, 5% extra damage, and 25% extra shield. It also makes him pull on enemies with a super instead of knocking them back. Primo's first gadget is called Suplex Supplement and literally makes him just throw the closest enemy. And next, Primo's second gadget is called Asteroid Belt and makes a meteor drop onto the nearest enemy. On impact, it deals 3,040 damage, knocks back enemies, and breaks obstacles. This may seem strong at first, but keep in mind that it takes an eternity to actually come down, so enemy brawlers can just walk out of its zone. El Primo's first star power is called El Fuego and deals 446 damage per second for 4 seconds, dealing a total of 1,784 damage. And finally, El Primo's second star power is called Meteor Rush and makes El Primo 25% faster for 4 seconds after he uses his super. For a 3v3, the main plan with El Primo is just to dodge and weave around projectiles and use walls for cover. When you eventually get your super, you can essentially just jump on anyone and win the 1v1. El Primo's best game modes include just Heist and Brawl Ball, due to his short range but high mobility. Tips and tricks. If you're playing Brawl Ball, you can shoot the ball into a wall, super to break the wall, then score. To stop someone from walking the ball into your goal, you can use your Suplex Supplement gadget to throw them away from the ball. You can stop attacks with a wind-up with either your super or gadget, and just please don't become that one Primo who jumps into Shelly with 10 gems.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass.
Best build. Primo has 2 builds. For Heist, you should use Asteroid Belt with El Fuego for the extra safe damage. Additionally, the Supercharge or Health Gear, along with the Damage Gear, will allow you to get to the safe more frequently. For other game modes, the better build is Suplex Supplement, to cancel attacks, and supers with a wind-up such as BBs or Franks, Meteor Rush to catch up to opponents, and Supercharge, Speed, Damage, or Health Gears, depending on your preference and map. Barley. Barley's purpose is primarily to zone out parts of the map with his attack and super, which linger for a short amount of time after being thrown. Because Barley can attack over walls, he does really well into brawlers that need walls for their turrets such as 8-Bit, Pam, and Jessie. But because of his attack pattern, low damage output, and health, Barley really struggles against fast brawlers and assassins such as Gray, Max, and Mortis. Barley has 4800 HP and a normal movement speed. His main attack is called Undiluted and shoots a projectile that covers a 2-tile radius for 1.9 seconds. On impact, it does 1600 damage and can deal damage again for a max total of 3200 damage. Barley's super is called Last Call and shoots 5 flaming bottles of liquid over 1.5 seconds that covers a large area for 3.9 seconds. It does 1600 damage per second and on impact for a max total of 6400 damage. Barley's hypercharge is called Bottled Up Rage and gives him 26% extra speed, 25% extra damage, and 5% extra shield. It also makes him condense his super into just 3 bottles, dealing 2000 damage on impact and covering a massive area. Any bushes hit by a Barley super will also be destroyed. Barley's first gadget is called Sticky Syrup Mixer and makes him drop a bottle of liquid, which covers a 3.33 tile radius and lasts for 4 seconds. Any enemy who steps into the puddle during this duration will be slowed. For this reason, this gadget is really useful against assassins. And next, Barley's second gadget is called Herbal Tonic and throws a bottle to every nearby ally within a 10 tile radius. On impact, each of these bottles break, creating a 2.67 tile radius puddle that heals any ally that steps onto it for 720 health per second for 4.5 seconds. Barley's star powers are pretty simple, with the first one being called Medical Use and healing Barley for 480 health each attack. And finally, Barley's second star power is called Extra Noxious and makes Barley's attack do an extra 200 damage per second. For 3v3, the main plan with Barley is just to stay behind walls and zone out parts of the map with your attack and super. Barley's best game modes include Heist, Hot Zone, and Gem Grab due to his damage potential to stationary objects and area control, but he can also absolutely dominate in any map that has a lot of walls, regardless of game mode. Tips and tricks. He can strategically attack places you don't want your opponents to go to zone out parts of the map. This is especially effective when your opponents are going for an object, such as a gem and Gem Grab or the ball and brawl ball, or even the zone and hot zone. Barley's super spreads out more the further you throw it, so if you want to cover a large area, it's best to back up. Best build. All of Barley's star powers and gadgets are useful, so the build you use really depends on your opponent's team composition. Against assassins and more aggressive brawlers, or in ladder in general, Sticky Syrup Mixer and Extra Noxious, along with the extra gadget, and shield or damage gears should be good. But against more passive brawlers like throwers and snipers, Medical Use, Herbal Tonic, along with the extra gadget and shield gears should be better, allowing you to act as a hybrid thrower healer, making sure you and your teammates are always at full health. Poco. Poco's purpose is primarily to support and heal his teammates. However, because of this, he does pretty terribly in 1v1s, but some brawlers he can have a good chance against include low DPS brawlers like Stu and Janet. And because of Poco's low DPS, he struggles against aggressive brawlers like Mortis, Edgar, and Fang. Poco has 7400 HP and a normal movement speed. His main attack is called Power Chord and shoots 4 projectiles that pierce, cover a large area, and do 1520 damage each. Keep in mind though that only one projectile can hit an enemy at a time, so Poco's max damage is just 1520. Poco's super is called Encore and heals himself and all allies that are hit by it by 4200 health. Now as of writing this, Poco doesn't have a hypercharge, but if he gets one, I'll put it down in the comments or update this guide. Poco's first gadget is called Tuning Fork and heals himself and nearby allies in a 3.33 tile radius for 740 health per second for 5 seconds, which is 3700 health healing in total. And Poco's second gadget is called Protective Tunes and removes any effects such as poison, burn, stun, or slow from himself and allies in a 6 tile radius. It also gives a 4-second immunity to those effects. Just keep in mind though that Poco can't activate this gadget while stunned, so make sure you activate it right before getting stunned. Poco's first star power is called Da Capo and allows him to attack his allies to heal them for 692 health. And Poco's second star power is called Screeching Solo and makes his super do 1520 damage to any enemies that are hit by it. For 3v3, the main plan with Poco is just to stick with your team and use walls for cover and to get near to enemies. Poco's best game modes include Gem Grab, where he can be a great gem carrier, and Hot Zone, where he can support his teammates on the zone. Tips and tricks. Instead of auto aiming, you can aim your attacks like this to get a tiny bit of extra range. Of course, this isn't really practical, but it can be really clutch in some situations. Try to use your super as much as possible. You don't always need to get the best value out of your super because you cycle it really fast. Best build. Poco's best build is Tuning Fork, except against stun focused brawlers like Frank and Lou. Definitely use Protective Tunes against them because you can just counter their whole kit. For gears, the gadget charge, damage, and speed gears are pretty good with Poco. And for Poco's star power, it's really personal preference. If you like dealing damage to enemies, Screeching Solo might be better for you, but if you really like the healing aspect of Poco, Da Capo might suit your playstyle more. Rosa. Rosa's purpose is just to sit in the bushes and destroy anyone in them by mashing auto aim. As a high health tank, Rosa does really well into assassins and squishy brawlers that don't do much damage, like Mr. P, Poco, Miko, and Mortis. But Rosa obviously gets countered by tank counters as a tank, with some tank counters in particular being Shelly, Colette, and Gale. Rosa has 10,000 HP and a fast movement speed. Her main attack is called Hands of Stone and shoots 3 punches that each do 920 damage, taking 1.1 seconds to unload. In total, 1 ammo does 2,760 damage. Rosa's super is called Strong Stuff and reduces all damage received by 70% for 3 seconds, with a whopping 33,333 effective HP. Rosa's hypercharge is called Grasping Roots and gives her 25% extra speed, 25% extra shield, and 5% extra damage. But she can use the 25% extra shield buff because it doesn't stack with her super. When Rosa's hypercharge is activated, Rosa's super also slows down enemies in a 4.33 tile radius around her. Rosa's first gadget is called Grow Light and instantly grows a 3x3 section of bushes around her, and Rosa's second gadget is called Unfriendly Bushes and deals 276 damage to all enemies in bushes and slows them down for 3 seconds. And Rosa's first star power is called Plant Life and makes her recover 300 health per second while in a bush. And finally, Rosa's second star power is called Thorny Gloves and makes her deal an extra 276 damage per punch during her super, which means in total, 1 ammo during her super deals an extra 828 damage. For 3v3, the main plan with Rosa is to stay and dominate in the bushes and maybe poke out to get a few kills. Rosa's best game modes include Gem Grab and Brawl Ball, and any map with a lot of bushes regardless of game mode, due to her short range but high survivability and ability to harness the power of the bushes. Tips and tricks. In Brawl Ball, particularly on maps like Center Stage and Sneaky Fields, you can activate your gadgets like 2 seconds after the match starts to slow down everyone on the enemy team. This can be really cheesy and can allow for an early goal. In Brawl Ball, if none of the opposing brawlers have the ability to stun or knockback you, you can comfortably walk in the ball by activating your super, then picking up the ball, then just walk it in. Best build. Rosa's best build is usually Unfriendly Bushes, but Grow Light can be pretty good if you want to connect bushes like the ones in Hard Rock Mine. For gears, speed, damage, or extra gadget gears will be really helpful for Rosa, and both star powers are strong, so it really depends on personal preference, the matchup, and the map. And that's it for all the brawlers. If you like this video and want one made for all the super rare brawlers, like this video and feel free to leave feedback in the comment section.